What the hell was that?
Pull the team out now! The storm has turned into a cyclone!
Guys, the cave is flooding!
You think? You'll find another way out! We're heading back down!
I can't do this. I'm not a diver.
You can do this because you have to do this!
I don't want to die down here.
I'm gonna get out of here, alright? We follow the river all the way to the ocean. This way.
You sure?
Nope. I'll see you on the other side.
Could have picked a better choice of words. Give me a hand.
We will find a way out.
We're running out of time.
You killed all of us! Never give up. No matter what happens, you never, ever give up. Sanctum.
All right, so Sanctum. This movie kind of taps into the same claustrophobic nerve that one of my favorite horror movies, The Descent, taps into. This idea, in this case, they weren't even underwater; they're just cave spelunkers who get a rock fall locks them inside. They have to find their way out, and there's monsters because it's a horror movie. This is a monster-free version of that, but the caves are underground. I think that it's technically absolutely beautiful, like the way it's shot, and like it was shot to be seen on a big screen and in 3D, and it really works hard on giving you that spectacle. And they hired an actual cave diver to work the script because they wanted everything to be authentic and visceral.
It
and real.
looks really good.
Yeah. And I will always count on producer, James Cameron, to be really good technically that way. But I feel, and feel free to disagree with me, that Sanctum suffers from the same thing that a lot of James Cameron works do, in that it's technically amazing, but the script has a little bit of a tin ear.
Yeah.
I recommend Sanctum for the visual adventure. I think as a visual achievement of sort of man versus nature, these scenarios that we present that are real diving scenarios and real exploration scenarios that have come up with are really well handled and really interesting. And I really believe that. And there are scenes where I feel my chest getting tight because I want to feel them getting the air that they so desperately need. Those scenes work. But whenever the characters start bonding, or they're reattaching to their distant relationship with the father, or they're trying to do this thing where setting up one guy as a hero where he turns super, super evil, none of that part of the movie works. And it's a sin because the rest of the movie is working really hard. Like, it really works until the scenes where it's not.
I completely agree with everything you just said. Like, the thing that got me with this movie is that at the beginning it says whether it was inspired by true events, based on a true story, something like that, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, we're in an impossible Naomi Watts type situation where this is a real thing that's happened.
Yeah.
Let's see how these people, did what they did. And then when we got into the villain dial on the one guy gets turned up so much, I'm like, oh, okay, like now it got too Hollywood, and it deviated so far from anything in the dynamic that how the characters were interacting.
Yes.
That stuff, like the stuff you're talking about, the father-son relationship, the relationships with the girl and whatever. Then I started going to like this. There's this. It's not based in reality at all. Saying that it was based on a true story is like saying a movie about two guys doing a podcast when the aliens arrive and witchcraft happens is based on Us Tonight,
right?
Because it had one little launch point that might have been real, and then creative license went too far.
To
and
be
that's
fair,
what this
we
movie
did
did.
record a podcast.
Yeah, and that's the true story.
That's true.
But the rest of it, artistic liberties, you know.
We had to make it a little sexier for the big screen.
Yeah,
I get that.
Too many liberties, and where the guy turned into a bad guy, and her hair getting caught in the ropes. At one point I thought, they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's where you get away with saying this could have happened because they were never heard from. I googled it after, and apparently nobody died.
No.
They were all fine, and it happened in the 80s, and they were only gone for, I don't know, I'm probably wrong on the number, but it was like 6 or 9 hours or something like that. It wasn't that long. And this
They
movie
were at
deviated.
risk of the caves being drowned by the storm, but in the end, the caves were not drowned by the storm.
Yeah.
It's essentially what happened. In the movie, they have to find an alternate route, and
Yeah.
they don't know if there is going to be a way out. And again, the group...
And they find like a freaking World War II plane, or what was it? They found
A tank.
or whatever. Oh my god! It got way to the point of ridiculous. But like you said before, technically,
Wow.
whoa, yeah, I felt like I was watching Jules Verne Journey to the Center of the Earth type stuff, you know, which are fun, and you get that sense of fantasy and adventure and that claustrophobic nature of those caves, and how would your physical endurance hold up even if you were like right on your game and this was your thing. How would you do some of these hard to do maneuvers?
Yeah.
That was great, but the interaction between the characters, well,
Yeah.
no.
And I think that they missed that, and I find that's often the case with James Cameron. Like, Avatar is a terrible script.
Yeah.
It is a terrible script. Visually amazing, terrible script. I don't think that this script is as terrible as that, but it is as obviously off-key. Like, somebody should have noted, yeah, we got all the gear stuff right, we got all the cave stuff right, but these characters are wonky.
Yeah.
This Australian actor, Dan Wiley, plays the guy who gets sick and severs himself from the group as to not become a liability, and he just goes somewhere
Right.
to hide and quietly die. I felt like this was another version of what Jim Cameron did in The Abyss with the Michael Biehn character, right?
I
But
haven't seen that in
it's
forever.
one of those things where the second we saw that little twitch or that little tremor in his thing, I knew exactly
You knew
what
it
was
was
happening with that character. Ian Gruffudd, or however the fuck you say that guy's name.
The bad
Ian
guy.
Gruffudd. The guy who starts off all gung-ho and sort of positioned as a heroic figure.
Positioned as a douchebag. As soon as he like jumped into
The hole.
the hole, and he like all his other friends are going down on the whatever ropes or something, and he
Yeah.
goes in on a freaking parachute. It's like, okay, you're the douchebag of the film. I immediately dislike you.
But exactly, we're not surprised by that. When we meet the main character's father, he's super gruff, and we feel like we shouldn't like him, but we're gonna grow to love this man so that his death will mean something to us, right? And I keep forgetting the actor's name, even though it keeps showing up in front of me. He plays the main character, Rice Wakefield, who plays Josh, the main character of the movie. He's good looking. I don't know. Is he an amazing actor? I wasn't.
The blonde guy.
I
Like,
didn't feel the
son?
stakes. I didn't feel the stakes with him until the very end of the movie when literally his dad died in front of him. I thought that was a good scene, but for the most part, I just felt like he was. Well, I guess maybe it's a character problem because he wasn't really. The action that was happening was never really necessary or centered around him. It was all the people had their own adventures, and he was tagging along.
He was just kind of there, and then
He became our main character.
Yeah, like at the end of it, it's all about him. So was that supposed to like surprise us, or we were supposed to, like? That's why I thought they were all going to die. I thought that they're saying it's based on true, so they're all going to die. And they can just make up whatever they want because nothing was really. It felt like they were guessing at who these characters were. And that it was just kind of like some kind of stitched together little plot to get them there to experience a flooding cave.
Yeah.
And so that's why they didn't feel real. When he comes out at the end as the hero, it's like, okay, well, maybe this did really happen. I don't know, but I just didn't care enough.
Yeah. And I wanted to because it's one of those frustrating movies because it's really almost there in a lot of ways. The sequence you talk about where the woman gets her hair caught in the gear on the rope and she's hanging by it and starting to peel her scalpel. And she wants to cut it so bad and they're telling her not to cut it because she might cut, like, that sequence is like really good. Or the scene where the kid is like runs out of air and he's finding tiny puddle pockets of air on the ceiling roof top of the cave and he's just sucking these tiny little breaths. Those scenes really, really, really work. And so much like when we were talking about Act of God, I'm like, I'm at war with the part of the movie that I'm liking and the part of the movie that I'm not. And sort of like Act of God again, I think there's enough there that I can say, like, if this sounds interesting to you, have a look. But in a way, this makes me hungry for the good version of Sanctum.
You know, it feels like Sanctum feels like it is the second or third in a series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it feels like maybe there was a first movie before it, which there isn't, that was better, and that this is kind of like deviated from that, and they're just trying to do a money-making sequel. You know, because it feels like it could have been a little bit more. Again, like Act of God, I don't know why I keep going back to this, but a little bit more deliberate and a little bit more thought out. It's like when you watch something that you know someone who's done a million music videos has something that's just on screen. It looks really good, but you could care less because it's there's no substance to it. That's how this was.
Cameron is good with the technical and not good with the emotional. And
how much of a part did he play?
He was executive producer of the film. His filmmaking partner, who he does all of these documentaries, these undersea documentaries with, it was the guy who was one of the cave explorers that survived that storm. He wanted to make this movie, so he had a good relationship with James Cameron.
So they weren't just using his name to sell tickets, like he
was on board. And if you watch the documentary, like you can tell he put his full sort of producer weight and technical expertise behind the movie. Like and he doesn't go halfway. Like when he made The Abyss underwater, he invented a lot of the gear to shoot that
he invented
the
3D stuff for Avatar. For when they did Titanic, he worked on the submarine technology to go. Like that guy is all in.
He's moving the technical end of filmmaking forward, but the emotional end is almost starting to drag backward.
It's like, well, when you think about like the what is it, when the Academy Awards, the so and so of arts and science. He's really good at the science part and the technical aspects of capturing those things. And when he's done something like, Titanic, he can pull at the heartstrings. And when he's done Aliens, he can kind of get that adrenaline going. But that's not always his forte. Yeah.
Someday you and I might have to talk about Titanic.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Sanctum? I kind of feel like my review will be an echo chamber of what I've just said. Like, I'm torn about the movie. It's one of those frustrating things where I think if the script was as good as the production, this might have been an amazing movie.
I agree. Like it's a fun watch. If you have it on and you're just kind of like, watching it with your eyes but not listening to it, you're kind of like, okay, this is interesting. But as soon as it's almost like a Twister. When don't listen to the script too much, just kind of have fun watching what you're watching, but don't dig too deep in the characters' motivations or anything like that, because it's gonna fall apart.
Also, just a small note, I've noticed there's a lot of movies that are shot in Australia, and they use a lot of Australian actors, and that's great because there's a lot of really great Australian actors. But there's something about, especially Australians or sometimes South Africans, doing an American accent. Like, their accent is gone, but somehow what they're doing is not an American accent sometimes.
Well, who are the Australians? The dad and the son?
The dad, for sure. The guy who gets sick and crawls off, although he keeps his accent. I think he actually talks with it, as I remember. I've seen him in other things. I think Ian Ruford is Welsh or something. I don't know. But most of the people who are playing Americans aren't Americans, and it's one of those things that most of the time you will not notice at all. But unfortunately, once you notice it, you can't unnotice it.
See,
a little
it didn't
bit.
really bother me too much because I was like, oh, they're international. Like they're in some cave wherever.
It's a small detail at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So his got a weird way of speaking somehow.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I think if as far as problems go, their script was far superior, more of a problem. Than
Absolutely.
The accents.
It's something that I've noticed that I've become more sensitive towards, because I think 5 or 10 years ago I probably wouldn't have noticed it at all. But I noticed it from a couple of characters, and not even all the time. Just that one scene, you're just
There's a little lilt in there. Yeah.
Anyway, that is not, but as you say, the biggest problem with
No.
Sanctum.